The night is dark and full of terrors, and so is this beer. This is a House Targaryen Black IPA that we have brewed in honor of House of the Dragon coming back to screens. This is part one of our little House of the Dragon brewing competition mini-series. So let's run a bit of B-roll and I'll explain how this is gonna work. This is a very big, bold IPA, so it needs a big, bold, hoppy profile. So at the 60-minute mark, we are going with 2 ounces of Chinook / 57 grams for us that use the metric system. At the 10-minute mark, we are going to be running with 57 grams each, again, 2 ounces each of Ruaka, Chinook, and Citra. And then lastly, at the 0 minute, so Flameout, we're not doing a whirlpool, just Flameout Hop Edition. We're gonna, again, go with 2 ounces / 57 grams each of Ruaka and Citra, followed by a pretty hefty dry hop, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. We are also shooting for 60 IBUs on this one, which is pretty bitter, but it's gonna be balanced by a very hefty malt profile that I'll talk about when we start mashing in. For the yeast, we are using a starter culture of 2 liters. We're using 2 packets of Verdant IPA yeast. Reason being, want an IPA yeast because this is going to be a pretty high gravity beer, so we really want a powerful yeast to munch through it. We also want it to contribute some kind of fruity, tropical style esters into the final product, which we'll think will pair quite nicely. So we'll pitch this at the end of the brew day. All right, the grain bill on this one is a very pretty grain bill. Come in and have a look. Look, I'm an artist. I've arranged it all neatly for you. So we've got 3% being like a dextrin malt, in this case Gladiator, but you could use something like a Carafoam or a Carapils. 6.5% is Midnight Wheat, and this is what's going to give us a slight tinge of coffee roastiness, but predominantly adding just the majority of the color without getting too much astringency. Medium crystal malt at 5% for our thicker body and sweetness. And lastly, just regular ale malt for the other 85.5% of the grain bill. Let's crush it all up. Oh my God. Oh no.
It's not working again.
No, it's working. Yeah, I know. I thought of that right after I stopped it. Time to mash in. By the way, that was about 13.6 kilos of grains, which is something like 25 pounds, I think. Let's mash. All right, we are gonna be mashing at 65 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. All the freedom units are gonna show up all over the screen for the Americans out there. And this is a pretty hefty grain bill. So we are definitely gonna be using the paint mixer today because I don't feel like doing this manually with a mash paddle. So use what you've got, but honestly, just get one of these if you don't have one. It's so worth it. Now's as good a time as any to talk about why we're making a black IPA or why we're going for this particular beer style for House Targaryen and Rhaenyra. Whole idea is, has to be black for, you know, the color of their house, well, the color that they're choosing for their war against the Greens, but it also had to be something big, robust, bold, intense, because that's what, you know, all those characters like Daemon, Rhaenyra, they're all powerful people, big backbones, so the beer has to have a big backbone as well. And, you know, IPA makes sense, black IPA makes more sense for the color. In hindsight, I probably should have added some smoked grains to this to go for that, you know, dragon fire smoke kind of vibe. Only thought of that just now, so you guys can add some smoked grains when you recreate this.
Who's winning the war, mate?
Do you want spoilers? No one wins in war.
I wonder what's going to happen in this season?
Okay, well,
Spoiler block?
Spoiler alert now.
Yeah.
Skip ahead to this amount of time in the video if you don't want spoilers. But this season we're going to have blood and cheese, so we're going to see the assassination of a couple of the children of House Hightower. Oh, which one was it? I can't remember the names. They're all the same. Alicent's daughter is your kids are going to get there's going to be that's pretty savage. You're going to see the build up of alliances. You're going to see what's his face. It's been a while since I've read this stuff. You're going to see Lord of the Seas, the the sea snake, Corley's is going to come along with his naval fleet. They're going to start blockading King's Landing. Like, it's going to be so much. This is going to be a big season. A lot of action happens this season. Lots of dragons. Lots of deaths.
Someone dies at the end.
Yeah, good time to talk about the grain bill and why I've chosen the grains that I have. So I learnt a lot from our last experience with the brewers over in America. So Zach and Chris from Santa Fe Brewing. Go watch that video where we brewed a West Coast, old school West Coast IPA with them, which was awesome. But I learnt a lot about how to construct more American styles of IPAs. And I've basically taken those learnings into this. Traditionally, I always thought I had to mash a little higher for something like an IPA. Now, no, I really don't need to. It can be a highly fermentable beer profile. And as long as you've chosen the right grains to back it up, it will have its own backbone. So that's where the Gladiator malt comes in for this, that dextro malt to keep a little bit of head retention and body and thickness of mouthfeel. 5% of that crystal malt is going to impart a chunky, toffee, chewy kind of sweetness, which you really, really need for a really high IBU beer. Traditionally, I also brewed IPAs with really low IBUs. I now realize I wasn't balancing them properly, and that's the reason why. So I can push the IBUs with this up to 60 like we discussed earlier, but because I'm gonna have that really chewy, really thick backbone, it's all gonna balance out with each other alongside the booze. And then finally, that Eclipse Midnight Wheat Malt is gonna add all the color for obvious reasons and effect, but the whole reason that I can also add it at the start of this is, yes, black IPAs traditionally are not meant to have a huge amount of roasted malt profile. It's not meant to taste like an espresso or like a cold drip coffee. But I do want a little bit of that in this to add to that bold effect. But because I'm using midnight wheat, it's not going to impart a whole bunch of astringency that you'd get from something like roasted barley. So we're going to get all the effect of the color. We're going to get subtle roasty flavors coming through, but it's not going to overpower the hop profile of what realistically is just a black West Coast old school IPA. Rant done. All right, we are all mixed in. By the way, for any new brewers out there, hello and welcome to Flying Wombat TV. But the reason why we're mixing in a bit of grains at a time, then stirring, then mixing, is to avoid dough balls, which are like clumps of, and sorry for experienced brewers going over this again, but it's clumps of grains that are basically formed into a tight ball. Outside is wet, inside is dry, you lose efficiency. That's the whole idea behind that. Get off grains. Okay, I'm gonna put my top screen on so that I can try and help my mash vessel from sucking up grains into the pump. And I think we're pretty good there. And it's time to start recirculating this and mash for 1 hour at 65 degrees Celsius. We'll come back at the end of that. Oh, and we are doing a mash out as well because we've got a pretty thick grain bill here. So a mash out basically means that at the end of the given time period of mashing in, so in this case 1 hour, you raise the temperature up to 77 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. That kills all the enzyme activity so that we don't finish out super, super dry and we retain that mouthfeel and flavors that we actually want. You do that right before sparging. Now, we are good to let this thing keep on going and we'll come back at the end of 1 hour and 15 minutes where we can start sparging this bad boy.
Did you make a boo-boo, man?
You made a boo-boo. We have a mess on the floor.
You made a boo-boo.
Odin needs to go back to the gym because he didn't lift in time with me and he didn't get the grain basket up fast enough.
My pace.
You're slow.
You're slow.
Be better. Go read Arnie Schwarzenegger's book. Be useful. All right, she's looking nice. Very, very black indeed. So now we're going to be sparging. We're just going to run our hot liquor water, which is just hot water, over the top of our grain bed at a nice even rate, with the idea being that we're wringing out all the extra sugars trapped inside these grains by having fresh water passing over through them. That water is also sitting at 70, should be at 78, it's at 79, 78 degrees Celsius, so that all the enzymatic activity has been halted and we end up with a full body mouthfeel. Once all of this has been drained out and we start getting ready for boil, we'll come back to you and we can start adding in our hops. 1.067. 1.067 with the refractometer pre-boil. Let me grab some hops and we'll get started with this thing. Now we are ready to boil. So our 2 ounces / 57 grams of Chinook are going in, and that is going to give us the majority of our IBUs. We'll come back towards the end of this for our 10-minute hop edition with the rest of the stuff. We're making coffee. I actually lied to all of you. This isn't beer. We're just making a giant cappuccino. That is vigorous. So many proteins and carbohydrates and oils in this thing, just creating all that foam. That's awesome. It's gonna be good beer.
Damon level of boil.
What? Smoldering? The smexy inbred Targaryen smolder. You almost killed yourself.
We can't do spoilers. But someone does get burned alive.
In this video, not even in House of the Dragon, Odin's going in the boiler. All right, 10 minutes left. So we are throwing in 2 ounces / 57 grams each of Riwaka, Chinook, and Citra into the hop spider. There you go. Oh, come on. Go out of the cup. Aw, -1 pellet. Flameout. So time to add our final hop addition for the day, which is 57 grams / 2 ounces each of Citra and Riwaka. I'm gonna throw it, I think the hop spider is pretty full, so I'm gonna throw it into the boiler. Let's whack it in there. I'm gonna start recirculating the pump and cooling it down via the plate chiller. So we're gonna get this down to about 25 degrees Celsius would be the target, whack it into the fermenter and pitch our yeast. Almost done. We are now coming out at yeast pitching temperature out of the counterflow chiller. Well, out of the plate chiller, you get the idea. So we are transferring over into the fermenter now, and we hit a gravity of 1.075, which is actually bang on target for what our recipe told us we're gonna hit in Brew Father. So pat on the back for us. We actually achieved exactly what we're trying to do, and that is incidentally 2 gravity points higher than the Wombat Fiesta beer we made with the guys over at Santa Fe Brewing in the States, which means I think we'll be just about bang on an 8% Black IPA, which is ballsy and beautiful, just what we were looking for. Anyway, we'll come back when we pitch our yeast. All right, we're done. We're at yeast pitching temp. Time to add the yeasties, and in they go. Come over my head. Try and get a shot.
Bend down.
Yeah. We ended up with 45 liters of wort, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home. And we are going to ferment this at 22 degrees Celsius. I expect primary fermentation will be done in about a week. And then we'll add our dry hop, do a diacetyl rest, and move on to cold crashing. So I'll see you guys when I'm ready to dry hop. It is now day 8 of fermentation, and our gravity in the tank is sitting at about 1.017. And that's about final gravity, so we're ready to dry hop. Might drop another point or 2 here or there whilst we perform our diacetyl rest. So here we have 4 ounces each of Riwaka and Citra, and 2 ounces of Chinook. So that's 57 grams of Chinook and 113 grams each of the other 2. We're gonna whack this into the tank and do it through the dry hopper. So a nice full pint glass of hops ready for this bad boy, which is pretty awesome. This is also gonna give us a dry hop to beer ratio of 6.9 grams per liter. That in ounces per gallon. I'll do the maths a little bit later. If you haven't seen this before, this basically just allows me to put all the hops into the tank by putting them into this chamber first, and then I can flush out this chamber with CO2 before opening the butterfly valve and dumping all the hops in. This just means that I can do this without introducing oxygen into the IPA, so we don't oxidize it and ruin all of our hard work. Gas goes on, you'll hear this kind of come in and out. Actually, I'll see if I can put it a bit closer for you guys. So we've got the little pressure release valve. Opens up, releases the gas, puts more gas in. We'll do this a couple of times and then we are ready to go. All right, probably 1 or 2 more. Then we'll dump this, and the next time you guys see me will be when I'm having a little taste of this bad boy. Alrighty, and hops away. Now that our beer is being dry hopped, why don't we use a little bit of video magic to speed things up and fill the glass? And here it is. So it is very big, it's very bold, as you saw in the cold opener. It tastes freaking awesome. So there's a ton of that roast character absolutely coming through, but there's also heaps of citrus up the front in terms of hop character, followed by a bunch of resinous pine and kind of earthy, spicy sort of notes coming through, which I have to assume is coming from the Chinook, which is really, really good. It works so well with the roast character, but I can't tell you all the stats, all the figures, and all the flavor notes with this thing because I need you to watch the next 2 videos. It's YouTube. So if you do want to see the final tasting for this, as well as see what the next beer it looks like, the House Hightower Green Skittles Apple Sour, tune in for next week. We're going to brew that one, and then we'll put both of those beers to the test to see which house is going to win the Game of Thrones. Cheers for watching, guys. We'll catch you next week.